Well, sound checks.
5 fatal mistakes preventing writers from living off their stories.
I published my first novel in 2023 and it failed spectacularly. I sold less than 50 copies and the reviews, mediocre at best. I stopped writing for months, convinced I wasn't good enough and that writing would forever be just a hobby I wasn't even that passionate about anymore. But I didn't realize I was making the exact same 5 mistakes that keep 90% of writers trapped into darkness, while a small group of authors are out there building actual careers, publishing book after book, and yes, living off their stories. And these mistakes have nothing to do with talent. They have everything to do with how you approach this entire game. You probably identify with this. You've got incredible stories swimming around in your head. You've got passion for writing. I mean, even your friends tell you you're talented. And the worst thing is that you're seeing it in social media and YouTube, other writers publishing story after story, book after book, building an audience in Wattpad, in Inkit, and other platforms. And you're just sitting there thinking, what do they have that I don't? Are they more talented? Do they have like secret connections? Do they have a secret tool that I don't? Here to give you the truth, they don't have more talent. They didn't get luckier. They simply avoided these mistakes that we all make as beginners. I still make them, so that's why I can tell you. And these are a little bit invisible because they usually masquerade as being more professional or waiting for quality, being more artistic. So here are the 5 mistakes, and more importantly, how to avoid them. So mistake 1, waiting for a publishing deal. The discovery myth. Let me guess your secret plan. You're going to write an incredible book, spend years editing and perfecting it, and then you're going to send it to every literary agent you can find, and one of them is going to fall in love with your story, give you a deal with a major publisher, a 6-figure advance, and finally, you'll be living of your writing, right? I know, I had the same dream. But here's the problem with that plan. You're betting everything, your entire career, on someone else saying yes to you, someone else validating you, and the odds are brutally against you. Literary agents receive hundreds, if not thousands, of manuscripts every single month. Publishers are shrinking their catalogs, and that $1 million advance you're picturing in your mind, those only go to authors who already have huge platforms that they built before. And the worst part of all is that, let's say that you do get that traditional publishing deal. You know what's going to happen next? You still have to do all the work. You wrote the book, obviously. You have to rewrite it, edit it with their help, but you're the one putting in the work, rewriting, polishing until it's publication ready. And then you have to promote it on social media. You have to build your audience. You have to do book signings, interviews, marketing. You still have to put in all the work to find your readers. The publisher is going to give you distribution, access to bookstores and other opportunities, yes, but all the heavy lifting, finding the readers, promoting the book, you still have to do it yourself. So ask yourself, why are you putting your entire career in someone else's hands when you're going to have to do all the work anyway? So the truth is, we're living in an era where writers have more power and more opportunities than they have ever before in history. Self-publishing is not just the plan B for people anymore, for those who couldn't land a deal. It's a legitimate strategy for keeping creative control and 70% of the royalties instead of a 10 or 50% from a good traditional publishing deal. Andy Weir started with The Martian, self-published online before it became a massive bestseller and movie. And Brandon Sanderson turned down traditional publishing offers and raised over 41 million on Kickstarter because he understood that his success didn't need to depend on a publisher saying yes or validating his idea. They figured out that validation doesn't come from a contract, but it comes from readers, from real readers. Now, I'm not saying traditional publishing is bad and that they should disappear. No, but I'm just saying that you shouldn't put your entire career on pause waiting for it. Because if you build your career yourself, you self-publish yourself, and you build an audience, they are the ones that are going to be looking for you further in your career. Mistake number 2, putting too much pressure on your first book. You don't know how hard that hits you when you realize that your first book, the one that you put so much work in and that you love, that's not going to be your best book. That's perfectly okay. Most likely, that's not the one that's going to be your big break. So don't put so much hope and weight on that first book and don't get discouraged. Okay, think about it. Have you ever seen a baby learning to walk, fall down and say, you know what, this isn't working. I'm not good enough at this. I'm just done with walking. I'm never going to walk. Sounds ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what we do as writers with our first books. We put so much pressure, so much faith on them to be perfect, to be our masterpiece, to be the book that launches us into fame and fortune, that we end up paralyzed when it's not like that. We're expecting our first attempt to compete with authors who've been writing and publishing for 20 years. That's insane. The truth is that you cannot learn to write great books without writing bad books first. Take, for example, Stephen King. He wrote for years, collecting rejection letters on his wall on a great pin before he even had the courage to publish Carrie, which he initially threw in the trash, by the way. And again, Brandon Sanderson wrote 12 novels before he published his first one. And J.K. Rowling, she rewrote Harry Potter many times and got rejected by 12 publishers before someone finally said yes. The difference between them and the writers who just quit after one failure is that they finished imperfect books and used them as stepping stones to get better. And they didn't give up. So try to switch your thinking from my first book has to be perfect and make me a bestseller to my first book is the best I can do right now, but the next one will be better, and the one after that even better. Your first book is going to be your greatest teacher. Every book will teach you something new. How to maintain a coherent plot across 80,000 words, how to develop consistent characters, how to handle pacing and tension, how to actually finish what you start. All of these skills will only come from writing, completing your manuscripts, and publishing. Not from reading about writing, not from taking courses, from finishing books. Your first book doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to exist. If you wait for perfection, you will never publish, you will never start, you will never learn. So write it, finish it, publish it, learn from it, improve, make the next one better. Mistake number 3, not listening to your readers. You don't need to chase trends. You don't have to write more vampire romance because Twilight was huge. You don't need to copy someone else's style or just because they sell millions of books. But, and I cannot tell you how important this is, you do need to understand what readers in your genre are expecting. Every genre has specific promises and conventions that readers are looking for. If you write romance, readers are going to expect aspirational settings, a complicated couple at first, but ultimately a happy ending. If you write thrillers, they're going to expect constant tension and unexpected plot twists. If you write fantasy, they're going to expect a well-developed world with consistent rules. That applies also to sci-fi. And not meeting these promises doesn't make you original. It makes you frustrating to read. And readers will abandon your book. Think of your genre as a base recipe. The fundamental ingredients need to be there. But the way you mix them, the unique flavors you add, the techniques you use, that's where your originality comes in. Write the story only you can tell. Use your unique voice, but do it within the framework the readers expect. Imagine you write an incredible mystery novel. Prose is beautiful, very well written, characters are deep. In final pages, you decide you don't want to reveal who the killer is because it's going to be more artistic and it's going to let the reader decide. It's original, sure. Is it artistic? Okay, maybe. Will it leave your readers satisfied? I don't think so. And unsatisfied readers don't come back for your next book. So listen to your readers without losing your voice. Read reviews of successful books in your genre. What did readers love of other books? What made them excited about them? What they didn't like about others? Join reader groups on your genre and see what they complain about of other books. What do they celebrate? Then take all that information and filter it through your unique voice while still delivering on those genre promises. That's the difference between being an undiscovered genius and a writer who actually makes a living from their stories. Mistake number 4, giving up after the first failure. So let me tell you a little bit more about that first book I flopped. I spent years building up the courage to write it. And when I finally sat down and wrote it in 1 month, thanks to NaNoWriMo, once it was done, I published it with every hope in the world, and it sold less than 50 copies in that first launch. The review that did came true, it said it was mediocre. So obviously I felt discouraged. I stopped writing for months, convinced myself I wasn't good enough, and I should just accept writing as a hobby and just give up. Maybe not even like that. But I was completely wrong, because that's where the real learning happens. That failure, in the end, when I was able to recover, was the push I needed. It made me to take courses, read more books on the craft, try again, write more books, fix what was broken, edit, learn about the whole publishing process, and move forward. So then I wrote another book and then another book. And with each one, I learned what types of covers actually resonate with my audience, how to structure the plot, how that affects the reader experience, what promises I need to keep in my genre, how to develop my own unique genre, how to develop my characters, and how to build these characters that readers will care about. But you know how many of those lessons I would have learned if I had never published that first book or if I just quit after that fail? Nothing. Zero. Because the writers who make it in the end did not succeed because their first book was perfect and was a hit. They published, failed, they learned from the experience, and then they wrote again better. Published again, failed a little bit less, learned more, repeated until it worked. Every published book gives you data on what works, what doesn't, what the readers want, what they love, what you love about your stories and your books, and where you can improve. Your first book is just the beginning. It's your starting line, your starting point, and you need to know that starting point. And then you show consistent improvement with the second, third, fourth, fifth book, but only if you don't give up. And mistake five, ignoring all the tools available to you. You are living right now in the golden age for being a writer. And most writers don't even realize it. 20 years ago, your only options were write a book, polish it as best as you could, send it to every publisher and agent, and wait for months or years for responses, with very low odds of acceptance. Eventually give up and write only as a hobby. That's it. That was the game. But today, you have literally dozens of platforms to reach readers and start building your audience and then monetizing your stories almost immediately if you are good at building that audience. You've got platforms like Inkit or Inspire where you get paid per read, potential book deals if your stories take off. Same with Wattpad that has 90 million readers searching for new stories every month, with programs for established writers. Royal Road, which is perfect for fantasy and sci-fi with engaged communities. You can start a serialized or subscription model like Substack, where readers will pay you directly for your writing and release chapters weekly. You have Patreon, where you can build a community that supports your work directly. So you have Amazon KDP, where you get to keep 70% of your royalties, and you have instant global reach. You have other platforms, Ingram Spark, Draft to Digital, that allow you to get professional formatting and distribution to all major digital bookstores. And to build your audience, you have tools like YouTube. You can share your process, create content based on your stories, read them as audiobooks. You can start a newsletter to have direct communication with your most engaged readers. You have other platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts, where you can get viral reach to find new readers. And yes, you also have AI. And this is where many writers will go out of their minds and get very defensive. But the truth is that AI will never write a book for you, at least not as good as you could, not a good one. Your voice, your story, your vision, those are irreplaceable. But AI can be your literary assistant to generate outlines when you're blogged, to do research, to review grammar and punctuation, to help you with first pass editing suggestions, suggest scene variations, help you overcome writer's block, create rough drafts or synopses or chapter summaries. Think of AI like a word processor. It won't write the story for you, but it's going to make the whole process way more efficient. Writers who reject these tools out of, I don't know, artistic purity are competing with one hand tied behind their backs against those who are using them strategically. So don't do that. Learn to use these tools with strategy and ethics, and you're going to be unstoppable. Traditional publishing is no longer the only path. It's just one of many, and here's where you gain an unfair advantage. While most writers are still waiting for agents to respond to their queries, you can be building an audience on social media. While they are rewriting their book for the fifth time after years chasing perfection, you can be publishing serially on Wattpad or Inkit or Substack and making money while they ignore social media because it's not professional or they just don't want to put their face out there. They want to be in front of camera. You can be converting followers into readers and into friends who love your books and stories. You have every tool you need, so don't ignore them. All right, those were the 5 mistakes. And I know them very well because I made every single one. But here's the thing, these are not accidental. They are defense mechanisms because it's more comfortable to wait for a publishing deal and put your future in someone else's hands than to face rejection of publishing yourself and learning how to do it. It's more comfortable to chase perfection and hide behind it than to face real reader criticism. And it's more comfortable to ignore feedback than admit that your story needs work. It's more comfortable to give up after one failure and call yourself a failure than to keep trying and exposing yourself. It's more comfortable to ignore all of these new tools than put in the effort to learn how to use them. But comfort is the enemy of success. It kills your dreams. You're living in the best era in history to be a writer. Period. No contest. You have tools, platforms, opportunities that writers 20 years ago would have killed for. But the only question is, what are you going to do about that? Are you going to use them? Or are you just going to stay trapped behind these 5 mistakes, these 5 excuses? The truth is, you don't need a publishing deal to validate your writing. You don't need your first book to be perfect to start. You don't need to ignore your readers to stay authentic. And you don't need to quit after one setback and say that you were not meant to be a writer. You don't need to reject modern tools to be a true, authentic, real writer. What you need is action. Write, publish, fail, learn, and then try again, and again, and again. So your challenge this week, I want you to be honest with yourself right now. Which of these 5 mistakes are you guilty of? If you've been waiting for traditional deals, then this week, go research one self-publishing platform. Just look around, investigate. What options are there? How they work? If you have been chasing perfection and shielding behind that, set a deadline to finish your first draft and don't break it. It doesn't have to be perfect, just finish it. If you're ignoring reader feedback, join a reader group in your genre. Just observe. Watch what other readers love and hate about other stories in your genre. If you gave up after a failure, go back to writing. One page, just one page today. Prove yourself that your career isn't over. And if you're ignoring all the available tools you have, pick one new platform this weekend. Create an account. Patreon, Substack, TikTok, Wattpad, whatever. Just look around, explore it, and see what other writers are doing and what you can do for your own books. Then come back to the comments and tell me which of these 5 mistakes resonated most with you and what are you going to do this week to overcome it. If this video helped you, hit that like button, subscribe for more content on how to finish your first stories and how to make a living of your writing, strategies, publishing insights, and the writer mindset you need to succeed. And share this with that writer friend who needs to hear it. Remember, you have the stories, you have the talent, you have the tools at your fingertips. So the only thing missing is action. Stop making these mistakes, drop those excuses, and take advantage of every opportunity you have today. The question isn't, can you live off writing? The question is, how am I going to make this work for me? And when am I going to start? See you in the next video. Happy writing.